So our EndNote presentation today comes from Davide Salomoni from ICSC.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brian. My name is Davide Salomoni, and first of all, let me thank the organizer for having me here. I'm going to talk about ICSC. I'll explain in a second what it is. So the title is Building it as National Platform for HPC Big Data and Quantum Computing. And the key word I would like to draw your attention to is platform. I'll explain why in a second. So I'm Innovation Manager at the ICSC Foundation. So let me explain what ICSC really is. So the origins of this endeavor comes from COVID, basically, because after COVID there was this National Recovery and Resilience Plan throughout Europe, and in Italy the Ministry of University and Research basically decided in 2022 to fund the constitution of several national centers. In particular, one of them is dedicated to all digital things, if you want. So that's the National Research Centers on HPC, Big Data and Quantum Computing, which in short is what we mean by ICSC. Now, the key point is that the ministerial goal in building all of this was to bring low TRL research output to like somewhat higher TRL level, so that we would come to a ready-to-market state for applications involving HPC, big data, and quantum. So the overall motto of the initiative was going from research to business. And for Italy in particular, if you know Italy, this was quite an innovative thing. We have been lacking, if you want, compared to other countries in the connection between public and private institutions. So that was the idea and the original vision for the National Center on HPC, Big Data and Quantum. So how is this structured? It is structured around a hub and spoke model, where the hub basically is the coordinating part, the national coordinating hub, which is handled by a foundation, a not-for-profit private foundation, which is the ICSC Foundation, which I'm part of. And it gets together more than 50 private and public partners from all over Italy. The interesting part is they come from academia, they come from research, and as we will see, they come from industry. So that is the overall national ecosystem, and the project itself has been structured in what we call the spokes, in 11 spokes. So 10 of them are verticals. So they provide, they cover key domains. They range from physics, astrophysics, but also climate, medicine, digital society, space, quantum, and so on. And then there is an infrastructural spoke which provides the resources, they share the resources that are made available to all the members of the National Center. So the resources themselves, I have a slide on this, but basically they cover supercomputers, cloud data centers, edge platform, and recently also quantum platform. They're all connected through Italy via the GAR research network, which is a high capacity, multiple 100 gigabits per second links. In addition to that, we have been building a European dimension to all of this. We coordinate the national node for Italy for the European Open Science Cloud. I will come to this later on briefly. And we also have an active role in promoting and participating to several European initiatives. So this is the picture of the members of the National Center. As you can see, there are, as I said, research institutions, universities. Actually, most of the Italian universities are there, and several large private companies. You may recognize the name of some of them. What is interesting to note for what regards the private companies, that they span very different domains. They go from oil and gas to insurance companies, to financial institutions, to software development companies, and so on, defense or space, and so on and so forth. So it's a very diverse ecosystem. For what regards the resources, I also mentioned the spokes. On the right here, you see the 10 vertical spokes. Yeah, it's readable. You can see the titles. They cover many scientific domains. On the left, you see the picture of Italy, and all the small buildings are the data centers that are federated and compose the national center itself. You may see a concentration toward the city of Bologna, where I'm also based. And that is because, of course, we have Cineca as part of our endeavor, but also the Italian National Institute for Nuclear Physics, as well as other institutions. But there are also several research centers, data centers across the country. So, for example, we have about 10 cloud-based data centers that offer services distributed across the country. Some of them are ISO certified, so they can also be used to serve health data, and that has actually been used quite a lot. And finally, along the way, we have also created a 12th, we start counting from 0, so that's a spoke 18, spoke, which is on societal implication and impact. So the idea is we don't do things because we can, but the idea is there a purpose to what we do? So this is the spoke that basically is a transversal spoke that thinks about the reason and the limitations of what we do in terms of social impact. Now, for what regards the resource allocation, as I said, resources are shared across all the ICSC participants. We have what we call a resource allocation committee, which receives requests for the various types of resources, be they CPU hours, GPU hours, quantum, QPU minutes or hours or what have you, or VMs and stuff like that. As well as training and consultancy services. Here you see in the picture some of the systems that are deployed at the data centers in Bologna, but as I said, there are several others that are spread across Italy. Now, perhaps a consideration I would like to make at this point is that if you start with a smallish infrastructure, building infrastructure is very hard. As you scale up, it's still hard, but the hardest thing is not so much the infrastructure itself, it really becomes the coordinating part. So the coordination, when you have so many actors that play together, is what really drives the effort, and that's not only technical effort, there's also social and political effort that needs to be taken into consideration. Now, so far, so the NRRP program is coming to an end for us. It ends actually in a couple of weeks. It ends end of April. So I will say something about what comes after this deadline. But so far, in the original vision, the National Center primarily has focused on HPC stuff, so for example, Leonardo, and on cloud services, such as the INFN data centers across the country. Now, a new strategic focus for us is the continuum edge to HPC, which, as we all know, is the capability to move data and application from where actually data is really produced. We have heard about healthcare applications just recently, so that's where basically data comes from, or from sensors, which may be digital cities sensors or what have you, satellites, through the cloud, and when necessary, down or up to supercomputers. However, this is just a theory. Architectural stuff, the boxes are always nice to draw, but in practice, this only works if you have dedicated services for portability, compliance, which is an integral part of our work, governance, and orchestration, and of course together with the application. I've mentioned here also quantum computing, which is connected to HPC, just to highlight the fact that hybrid quantum HPC is also something that we are spending quite a lot of time on. Now, why this shift? So I said we started from HPC and cloud, and we're moving towards a more complex, if you want, federated continuum, edge to cloud to the HPC. Now, this is not something that is mandated. Nobody dictates that you must do that. It's just a choice. But let me reflect just a little bit on why this convergence actually matters. So, of course, there are several points that have to be put together here. So the AI workloads, as we have heard several times here, require massive compute capacity, and HPC, of course, does provide scale and performance. Cloud provides elasticity, automation, orchestrating workflows, and so on and so forth. But then we have the edge, and the edge provides, suppose, a low latency and the inference part, the real-time inference part. As data is more and more generated at the edge, you must have a way to fulfill, to create the entire picture. And finally, quantum, of course, holds the potential for disruptive innovation in several fields. Now, if you think about this, about the picture that has convergence at its core, this actually also means that you need to rethink the education and skill system. And this, in particular, is a topic that's very close to my heart. Education and skill systems certainly must evolve, including reskilling and upskilling for people starting from citizens, but down to, or up to scientists. Now, this brings about several key challenges and opportunities. These are structural challenges, but also strategic opportunities. As I said, that's not something that is dictated by any external force. It's something that we believe is strategic, which means that you have to balance a number of parameters, such as scaling, energy efficiency, which is, in particular in Italy, is a very hot topic, and digital sovereignty. We heard about this already. The fact that you have this continuum means that you must have federated platforms. So federated means a lot of additional complexity in terms of policies. Speaking of policies, we are in Europe, so we have to take into account several regulatory frameworks, such as the AI Act and the Data Act. And as I said, the skills availability and the industry adoption are also a very important topic. Now, here comes the second part of my talk. So I started talking about the NRRP, so the National Recovery and Resilience Plan initiative, which basically started the National Center. So we're moving to a permanent platform. So for Italy, we think that ICSC has been a foundational investment. It has enabled a number of things, such as development of infrastructures, development of skills, and in particular, the building of something that did not exist before, such as the ecosystem. If you look at the graph on the right here, that's barely readable, but basically this is the network that resulted from more than 70 projects that we funded with about 30 million euros or so, which were all started by a private company, and which involved a complex mesh, as you can see, of both public and private ICSC members. This is something that at this scale has never been done before, at least in Italy. So what comes next? We want to capitalize on this. We don't want to come up with another project. That would be silly in the first place. So we're transitioning from a time-limited program to a permanent platform, which has the goal or the aim to be relevant both at the national and the European levels. So this, of course, brings the topic of financial continuity of the program itself. We have worked on this for probably almost 2 years now. So we have already funding that is allocated for 2027 and 2028 through an Italian budget law that was approved not this year, but last year. So because of this, we have a provisional budget for the next 3 years. It has been already approved by our board of directors. And this combines the internal resources coming from the fees that all the ICSC members pay to be part of the group, plus, of course, national funding. Plus, of course, there are many EU-level initiatives. I will be talking about just a few of them in the next few minutes, but in essence, this gives us some confidence. This ensures stability, continuity, and long-term planning. Now, speaking about a few projects that have already started, there are many others that are in the starting phase. I should mention, first of all, the AI Factory, because 1 year ago, the Italian AI Factory project began. The Italian AI Factory is one of the 2 largest AI factories that were approved in the first batch of AI factories by the European Commission. It has been co-funded actually by both the European Union and Italy itself through various sectors, with 400 million euros for building a new machine, which will be basically the next Leonardo, if you want, which is projected to be about an order of magnitude more powerful than Leonardo, specialized in artificial intelligence, plus about 30 million for the ecosystem itself, so the development of the AI services and application. Let me mention that the AI Factory Consortium is quite diverse, but a key point is that ICSC, as a national center, basically leads 2 of the key work packages of the entire project. One is on data services, and we have heard many times how much data services are relevant, as well as on training. Now, the last point, I will not discuss this, don't have the time, but we believe that the AI Factory is actually an integral part toward the constitution of the future EU Gigafactory, which are not just larger AI factories. They are built on a different business model. However, we believe that this will give, hopefully, we hope that this will give also Italy the opportunity to build a national EU Gigafactory in Italy. So the second point, this was HPC, moving more to the, let's say, the cloud side. The European Open Science Cloud, we probably all know what this is about, at least people with gray or white hair like me remember probably the EOSC since many years. In recent years, the European Commission realized they had to put some money behind this initiative. They really wanted to have a continent-wide infrastructure such as the EOSC, the European Open Science Cloud. So they have created several national nodes. In Italy, we have a national node. It was one of the first nodes to be approved by EOSC, and it is managed directly by the ICSC Foundation. So we believe this is a unique strategic asset for Italy and for the international community. Of course, this focuses on open data, on research services, and again, this links for us very closely to what I said earlier about the AI Factory, because it is another piece of the puzzle linking the continuum from HPC to cloud and eventually to edge. Let me just mention that we have currently identified 2 key or main use cases for the EOSC. One has to deal with reproducible workflow management, which for us, as you can imagine, being this a distributed infrastructure is really a key point. And the second one is on sensitive data processing, which brings about, again, lots of interesting questions about compliance with the AI Act, how you treat data, which is covered by the GDPR, and so on and so forth. And through the national node, there is a work program now published for 2026 to 2027 or 8. So we aim to participate in major upcoming EU opportunities. Now, let me say that we look forward to collaborating with any interested organization on European calls as well as on EOSC related initiatives. Now, HPC, cloud, edge, so that's the third part of the puzzle. Recently, we got approved a new project which was funded with 15 million euros, which is actually the missing link, the connection between the HPC part, the cloud part, and the edge part. So we have structured this into 3 interconnected sub-projects. One has to deal with the research part, with methods, models, in particular focusing on digital twins. The second part is on distributed labs and deployment of digital twin across the continuum, in particular across the country. And the third part is on upskilling and reskilling and technology adoption, in particular for Italian companies. Now, we heard also earlier today that there are interesting developments in terms of sovereign computing platforms such as RISC-V. Well, EcoTwin, as it is called, this project also has a particular dedicated stream to address low power and sovereign computing platforms. So also in this case, we support joint activities with any organization that may be interested to work together with us in this area. Finally, the industrial part, so HPC, cloud, and edge. But eventually, you want to bring these things to the market. So Euro HPC, which we all know, almost already a couple of years ago, issued the call to create the first Euro HPC co-funded industrial-grade supercomputing project. Only one project was approved. It was awarded to Italy, and in particular, the ICSC Foundation represents the industrial partners. There are 7 industrial partners which actually co-fund together with Euro HPC this new machine, which is much smaller than Leonardo. However, it is completely dedicated to industrial application, and it will be installed again at the Bologna Technopole, hopefully in a year from now, so the first half of next year. The part that deals with the upskilling and reskilling, education and skill, as I said already, if you want to have a long-term sustainability, we believe that we need to think education and training. Starting from the academia, I'm also a professor at the University of Bologna. Curricula must evolve, so we need to have interdisciplinary programs across AI, HPC, cloud, and edge and quant, which is something which is kind of missing today. But most important, we need to have hybrid skill profiles, not so vertical, and the competency framework certainly must adapt to the new technologies. So it's much more complex today from what we studied when we were young. So what we are doing in this regard, we are building a modular training portfolio focused on the effective use of our infrastructures. Again, we support joint developments and exchange of competencies and training modules with any organization that want to collaborate with us. And this brings me to opening the ecosystem. So just to put things clear, we are not looking for customers, so to speak. We are looking for peers. So opening the ecosystem means that now that the NRRP program is over, we could not do it before because of limitation of the ministerial mandate, but now we can open the ecosystem through new instruments, institutional and collaborative. So for example, we just issued last week a call for new, what we call ICSC grants, which are competitive calls reserved to the ICSC members for research and innovation activities. We have a program to make it possible for new members to join the National Center with new category as well as a more differentiated fee structure, and we already have signed several MOUs both nationally and internationally for long-term strategic collaboration. As I said, we're looking for peers, not so much for customers. We're not cloud providers, so to speak, in the traditional sense. So coming toward the end, what makes ICSC different? I can certainly say this from the Italian perspective, but there are some elements that clearly set ICSC apart from other initiatives. We have the aim to be a one-stop shop for both projects and resources. Now that the NRRP phase is finally over, we can expand our membership base from 50 to whatever comes up, not focusing so much more on projects, but more on services. For example, the AI Factory initiative already gives us a strong boost in this. The national and EU programs is also a key point that we would like to continue expanding. And what is very important for us, with so many members, what is difficult, as I said, the coordination part. So we have had several services being developed in 4 years. So what is difficult is to have a horizontal integration to a unified service catalog. So this is what is drawing our attention these days. And finally, last but not least, addressing training programs complementing what is provided by academia for both research and industry. So this is my last slide. We were established less than 4 years ago. I think we have become a reference ecosystem both at the national and the international level for multidisciplinary science, applied AI, infrastructure which are state-of-the-art in terms of HPC, quantum, as well as cloud, as well as industry engagement, which, as I said, for Italy was something that certainly was not present at this scale. So if I have to summarize this, certainly we are becoming a permanent national and European platform. And reflecting what also we have heard throughout this day, I would say that if you have enough money, probably in 18 months, maybe 24 months, you're able to build the next supercomputer. But it probably takes 10 years if you want to build new skills, a new ecosystem, if you want to have partners working together in a collaborative way. So this is basically what ICSC wants to do. And for further information, here you have the link to the ICSC website, or certainly you can contact me at the email that is written on the slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Davide, for your presentation. I have a question regarding the future, which you already briefly touched in your presentation. So what is the continuity from the perspective of small and medium enterprises? And this question comes with a slight critique of what was the previous round of grants, because we were winners of 2 or 3 projects from ICSC. So first of all, thanks for granting your trust in us, but also from our point of view, it was too much money in a too short period of time. So yes, it was very difficult also for the hiring period of the time. It was really difficult to man the projects and to concentrate everything in such a small time span. So is there any lesson learned for the next round?
Yes, thank you. It's a very good question. You can think that ICSC was awarded 320 million euros to be spent in 4 years. Now, this might seem something easy to be done in some countries. I can tell you that in Italy it is a horribly complicated task to do that in a proper way, not wasting money. So in 4 years we had to increase the infrastructural part, finance projects, finance public and private institutions and so on. And probably you're referring to the fact that we awarded 32 million euros to external companies to help us connect with the existing spokes to build new solutions. Now, you're right, the timing was very tight. Unfortunately, this is what the ministry told us to do. So we started awarding money to SMEs only very late because the ministry basically told us to do that very late. So in the end, the SMEs only had slightly more than 1 year or something like, even less in some cases, to spend the money they got awarded. But in the end, you all did a very, very good job. Now, in the next phase, we will not be bound by the ministerial limits anymore for 2 reasons. First of all, because the funding that comes even from public money has not such a restrictive model as we had in the NRRP phase. And secondly, coming from the money that comes from the fees of our members currently amounts to about 6.2 million euros per year. So that's the money that we want to dedicate to fund, in particular, SMEs and startups. We already had 2 rounds of calls dedicated to startups. We did not invest a lot of money in that because that was not our our core activity. As a matter of fact, that was not even accounted for in the NRRP program for startups. But this is something certainly that we want to do more and more. Now, the question, if you want, is not so much how much time you give to SMEs, but which services are SMEs going to want from the National Center. We have started with the big HPC centers. So take Leonardo, for example. Is this a viable solution, interesting solution for SMEs? Well, in some cases, yes, especially if you think about training of AI models. So, yeah, sure. But in many other cases, things are much more subtle. Maybe they want more cloud-related services. Maybe they want distributed AI. Maybe they want federated learning. So capitalizing what we have done in the 4 years, we believe we will come to that as well.
Is it green? Do you have a green light?
Hello, thank you. Another question about industry. Usually when you work with industry, they are most of the time using not open source code. They want to keep their code private. So how do you deal with that? How do you work with them? And maybe another question about what's the motivation for them? Are they interested mostly by AI? Do you think they are more advanced, less advanced than normal HPC users in AI? Or what's your experience with industry?
Sorry, just to understand, you're talking about the private partners, right?
Innovation.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a touchy point, of course. We have IP intellectual properties guidelines that have been signed by all the ICSC members. The general framework is that as open as possible, as close as necessary, which is something which is very common. Now, this very much depends on the use cases that we treat. As I said, we funded more than 70 projects that were initiated by private partners. Many of them involved the use of privately owned data. Now, this was very complicated because it involved also a lot of legal departments, but in essence it worked out okay. The idea, let me give you like a concrete example. Take Eni, which is the largest oil and gas company in Italy, and one is the largest in Europe. So you certainly know that Eni has, what is the number now, HPC 6 or whatever, the supercomputer they have in Lombardy, which I think is now at the 5th place in the top 500 ranking. So if you think at this, well, they say, why would they need to pay like 250K per year just to be member of the National Center? They do this because their own internal supercomputer is basically dedicated to production, while all the research part is done collaboratively with the research institutions, with academia, and so on. So this means that also the data that they provide is subject to various NDAs. Also the results, which actually, to be specific for Eni, have also generated several papers published in peer-reviewed journals together between any scientist and university researchers. They also have to be worked out. So it's not easy. It can be done. In terms of open sourcing things, well, again, this depends very much on the maturity or even on the vision of the company. We don't dictate that everything has to be open sourced because that would be unworkable for some companies. We try to be convincing in the fact that if you open source things, certainly you would be able to collaborate better with the ecosystem. Now, for Italy in particular, 95% of the GDP in Italy is produced 90 to 95% by SMEs, right? So you have lots of them. So again, what is the point if you keep all your stuff closed by yourself? That is maybe work if you produce small-scale shoes or fashion or something like that. But if you compete with the international markets, at least for Italy, your only good bet is to open up, and that also covers the software part, for example.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Sure.